Just because it's almost getting to be side-by-side season. Oh, nice deer. Little baby doe. Usually there's one, there's another. He probably thought, or she probably thought it was shot at her when the backfired. Anyway, just because it's getting to be off-road riding season doesn't mean it's time to put the bike up for the winter. You never know in Georgia. It can be January and 80 degrees, and then the next day, 17 degrees. So we are planning at least two more rides as far as group rides go, possibly the Smoky Mountain 500. And I've been doing some research and doing a little tracking of my own, coming up with some intermingling routes of different established routes. So I actually just downloaded the free trial version of the Ride with GPS app, and the reason why I wrote that or downloaded that is because it shows you dirt roads versus paved roads. Now it's not 100%, because in fact the road that I'm on right now obviously is not paved, and the Ride GPS shows this as a paved road. So I want to mess with it and see if I can find a bunch of established paved roads, or actually unpaved roads, let me get this straight, and maybe come up with some hybrid routes. Maybe linking the 500 with the Georgia Adventure Trail. And I know that the BDR system is coming out with a new, I forget what it's called, but a new adventure trail system that runs through Georgia, and I'm not sure where. That is going to come out on September 19th. So we're looking forward to seeing that route when they drop it, to see how much of the other routes, the Georgia Traverse, Georgia Adventure Trail, Smoky Mountain, and the TAT, they're all going to intertwine at some point, because they always do. There's always so much unpaved road like this. So we just finished our second group ride of the year, and if you've seen previous videos, both rides have had issues. Had a ride on the Smoky Mountain 500 where one of our guys went down on the railroad tracks. It was wet. We thought, okay, just bad angle or whatever the case may be. But then he went down. Actually, he didn't go down. He went on top of me on the Mabder. Missed our turn, everybody slowed down, went to make a U-turn, and he wasn't paying attention, and he T-boned me at 30 miles an hour. Luckily, his front tire hit about 3 inches in front of my left leg, otherwise my leg would have been destroyed. If I had a leg, it would be in a cast right now for sure. So let's tackle some pros and cons on group rides. Hold on a minute, take your time. Don't get up. You're gonna call on one. Come on. All right, hang on. No, man, hold on. Where are you hurting on?
Left shoulder.
Think you collarbone or?
Possible.
All right. What's the pros for group rides? There's a lot of them. I enjoy doing group rides. Now, when I say group rides, I'm talking 4 to maybe 6 riders, 7 riders, somewhere in there. Now, I've done the charity group rides before where there's been as many as 300 motorcycles. Did it once, said that's it, no more. Just too many inexperienced people riding in those, listening to their Bluetooth in their phones or their headsets, or blasting their Harley stereo speakers out loud and not paying attention. And then you'll see as the line stretches out, when someone slows down, the people behind them aren't paying attention, and you start getting that slinky effect of stopping and going. And about 10 minutes into my first group ride that I did that on, I dropped all the way to the back because I know my riding ability. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I know when to get out of a group of people who really have no business being on a motorcycle. So you would think traditionally safety would be the #1 factor of group rides. Unless you got someone on a certain DR650 that doesn't know how to ride and they crash into you at 30 miles an hour because they simply weren't paying attention, that they admitted. When I talk about safety, I'm not really talking about the masses or anything else like that. I'm not talking about wild animals. I know you can get bears and deer, like you saw the baby deer cut in front of me. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Bigfoots. When I talk about safety, it's pretty much the fact that if an unfortunate accident happens and someone goes down, someone gets hurt, you got someone with you that can lend some kind of medical assistance if need be. If there's no cell coverage, if you're not riding with a satellite device like a Garmin or something, you've got someone that can at least leave you and run in to find assistance. So generally, as far as safety goes, that's the #1 aspect of a group ride. Having someone with you that can help out in an event of a medical emergency, an accident, or even a mechanical breakdown. Well, unfortunately, shit happens, and it did. The railroad tracks right there are on an angle. There's no warning until you get right on them. It might just hit their front and slid out. Got EMS checking them out now. We're right outside of Ducktown. Another positive is having tools, sharing equipment. So if you're doing a group ride, if you coordinate everything, you can sit there and decide, hey, we don't need 2 or 3 or 4 of these. You can spread it out to maybe a couple of duplicate items. But by doing that, you're assuring that you have enough items to fix or help fix other bikes. Now, granted, there may be certain tools that are only being used on your bike or whatever. Obviously, you're going to bring them. But you know, you don't need multiple tire irons, which adds weight. Maybe 1 or 2 pumping systems for air. All of that stuff you can add. The good thing is you can spread out who needs what, and you're lightening the load on your bike. So you can maybe go from knocking off 15 or 20 pounds of equipment that you don't really need to duplicate. All right, man, we're about 30 miles into the first day. First half day.
Holy shit.
Hank picked up a big old roofing tire nail. The mechanical knowledge factor. I mean, I know how to fix certain things on my bike, my side-by-sides, my car, or whatever, but I'm no mechanic. So the more people you have with a more mechanical experience, the more you can improvise if that's what the case deems, or someone that has knowledge and, like you said, the proper tools. Another advantage is being able to share expenses. Now, if you're moto camping, your expenses really probably aren't going to be that great. But if you're like us, mostly older guys, and it's either been hot when we rode or it's been cold. So we've stayed in cabins. So when you can share the cost of either a hotel or the primitive cabins or whatever, that definitely cuts down and helps with the cost of going riding. Another positive advantage of a group ride is planning. Maybe someone has done the route that you're going to do before. They can give you some insight, steer you away from maybe bad hotels or bad areas to stay in or whatever. You see it all the time. Certain parts of like the Trans-America Trail where people advise you to stay out of certain cities just because of the danger factor. Your machines getting messed with, stuff being stolen, whatever the case may be. But it's nice to be able to sit there and plan with someone and decide on a route and come up with an idea with someone's input that maybe has done stuff before. And that can definitely help the planning and go a long way in making the ride an enjoyable ride. What have we learned also to implement on group riding? If you're going to ride like the Smoky Mountain 500 or the Madder, and you've never ridden with someone that's going to join the group, it may be all new riders. That's pretty much about what happened to us on the 500. You need to sit down, and whether it's Zoom, text, Facebook Messenger, or whatever, and talk about your riding plans, what you expect, what is everybody's comfort level, what is the capability of their machines. So you want to just, discuss that and get that in play. The first time that we did the 500, we had a couple of guys that were looking to go a lot faster than myself and one of the other riders were. That's fine. But once you establish, whether it's at the start of the ride or during the ride, hey, you guys want to go ahead, that's fine. As long as you got a navigation system, you can stop, wait for us, or keep going, because we got our own navigation system. Because my goal when I adventure ride, or even get out on ATVs, is to go slow like I'm doing now and see things, not run into deer, try not to wreck. I've done the wrecking thing on the first attempt at the Smoky Mountain 500, and I didn't like it. I broke my tibia. So you definitely need to establish some guidelines. What's the expectations on how fast, how far you want to ride? And again, like I said, riding experience, because I'll be honest, there's some people, God bless them, they just have no business being on a motorcycle. And for that fact, there's some people that have no business being on an ATV or a side-by-side. And hopefully you can figure and weed that situation out before it becomes a problem. And going back to the numbers game as far as having people. For example, when the one guy went down on the Smoky Mountain 500, we had, at that point, 5 of us, well 4, not including the guy that wrecked. We were able to make sure that paramedics were called, be able to make sure that his personal property was taken care of, that his bike was loaded on the trailer, got all the information on what tow yard, what we were going to need to do to try to get him to the hospital, and then eventually getting him home and get his bike back home. So having numbers like that plays big time. Another example of having numbers was on the first Smoky Mountain 500 again. One of the guys on the KLR went around a corner and hit leaves that were on top of mud, and they just kicked the rear end out from underneath them. He didn't get hurt. He had hard boxes, which is probably a good thing in this case, on his KLR. The hard box caught the lip of the ravine that the bike was basically pointed down.
Man, I lost the front end, and the front end, as soon as it hit the leaves, that was all she was. And I saw that hill coming up, and I said, oh no.
Well, the good thing is the hard box caught. About 90% of the weight of the KLR loaded with gear was hanging over the edge of the ravine. We couldn't pull it back with 2 of us. We just couldn't get the foot in, and there wasn't enough leverage. and we had no one else come along. So basically, we had to push his bike down into the ravine, and it took 3 of us with him riding it to have enough ass to get that KLR up the side of the hill. It was all in the fall, winter time, so the leaves were there, they were mushy, and if it had been 2 riders, we would have had to wait, call a tow truck, or wait for a Jeep, or whatever the case may be. 1 rider, you were screwed. You might as well at that point just sit on the side of the road, wait and see if someone comes by, and if they don't, hope you got cell service or text via inReach to get a tow truck or whatever. So those are big options as far as having people, the abundance of people that can help out. As far as cons go, I don't know, there's not too many cons on riding a group ride. Know your people, know their skill level. Make sure before you leave, whether it's on one of these or a motorcycle, that everybody's done as much preventative maintenance as possible to try to prevent issues on the trail. We know that things happen on the trails. It's inevitable. Machines break down or whatever, but you deal with it on the trails. Personalities, that happens sometimes, especially if you don't know people. They've got different ideas of what they do or the way they want to ride, which isn't a big deal, but it can make a ride a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you start getting egos involved in that kind of thing. But overall, my experience is do group rides. There's nothing wrong with doing solo rides. You just got to be prepared. Have your equipment. Have emergency communication systems like inReach or whatever the case may be, just in case something happens. Have a med kit. Be able to render first aid. I mean, it could be as far as even having a tactical tourniquet in your med bag. Because if you're out by yourself, you're going to have to rely on yourself if possible to try to get yourself out of trouble or keep yourself going until you can get help that arrives. All right, it's hot as hell, but I want to ride the high lines a little bit to get home. As dry as it is, I don't think there's any mud pits. I never have put a new winch on this thing. The one that's on here is broke. So I got to make sure I don't get myself into any situation out here. Been a while since they've been out and done any kind of maintenance on these things. Starting to get rougher and rougher. And we don't get out during hunting season because you'll get hunters put deer stands up along the edge. So not good to piss a hunter with a gun off. And then it gets too hot in the summertime to get out and ride. So sort of limited riding, but great trails. Okay, that's pretty much about it. Just wanted to get old Red out, do a quick ride. Been a while. Going back home tonight. This week I've got to go through the XP1000 ZR. Got an electrical issue, just put a brand new battery in it. Not getting power to the fuel pump, so I got to pull everything out. A while back I wasn't getting power to the dashboard, which was a relay I got replaced. So I got to yank that apart, and we might go side-by-side riding next weekend. It's supposed to rain in Georgia and Alabama several times this week, so might be some good mudding. So I got to get off my ass, get the side-by-side back up and running, and possibly take it for a ride next weekend. So hope you're enjoying some of the videos that we're posting. So we're going to do a variety of videos. Side-by-side season is coming back up, so I'll be posting some more side-by-side content along with the ATV content. Like I said, it's far from being winter in Georgia, so still have some more rides on the old KLR before old man winter comes and says that's enough for a while. Anyway, as always, ride smart, ride safe.